few years ago, I made a video about Ghost of Tsushima. I got a comment on it complaining about how much I compared it to Halo Combat Evolved. So today I'm Pliskin, and we are really gonna piss that guy off. You don't have to worry about spoilers in this review, by the way. Xbox was, and arguably still is, a brand recognized by the Halo IP. A single game that was the undisputed poster child by its release. Sony never had this. Metal Gear, Silent Hill, Resident Evil, Call of Duty, etc. All of them have had strong ties to Sony and PlayStation as a brand, but they were always multi-platform. That's why, for a while, Sony tried to push out Halo killers, sci-fi shooters with moderate to no success. But as it turns out, Sony didn't need to kill Halo. They needed to wait for an insanely talented studio to come up with an original IP to make a unique and definitive experience that would breed its own slew of copycats and wannabe killers. That game is Ghost of Tsushima. More importantly, that studio was Sucker Punch. Back in 2010-2011, Infamous 2 was the reason I wanted to get a PlayStation 3. I remember going over to a friend's house and playing the first Infamous game. Up until this point, gaming for me was Lord of the Rings Conquest on my Nintendo DS, Battlefront 2, LEGO Star Wars, Bionicle Heroes, SmackDown vs. Raw 2010 on the PlayStation 2, and of course Halo Combat Evolved. I probably wouldn't have understood the idea of an open world game even if someone had explained it to me. So it's fair to say my little 9-year-old mind was blown away when I got my first taste of a game that let me go anywhere in the city and choose if I wanted to be the good guy or the bad guy. I played so much Infamous 1 that my friend started to give me shit for bothering him to let me come over just to play Infamous 1 all day. So you could imagine my reaction when circa 2010 I was walking around the mall holding my mother's hand and I saw a massive wallpaper poster covering the entire entrance of Felix Maduro. Now, this place was already hype because they had Mortal Kombat 9 in an arcade cabinet within the toy store. Side note, I went there last year and I saw a little kid playing Breath of the Wild on a similar cabinet in the same store. It was one of those moments where I could be happy for kids and their future, knowing some of them get to enjoy moments I know firsthand will transform into precious memories. But anyways, it was right before my family was about to move countries, and to soften the blow of losing my friends, I got a PlayStation 3 along with Infamous 2. From 2011 to 2013, I lived inside of this game. While it made one hell of an impact, the charming PS3isms of its design were soon outdated. While Second Son released on PS4, it wasn't nearly as big as Infamous 2. It was at this point Sucker Punch vanished into smoke. Then it happened. In the midst of a plague that's come to define the 2020s the same way 9/11 defined the Y2Ks, Sucker Punch reappeared and dropped Ghost of Tsushima. Naturally, what really makes me like this game is the combat loop and the sandbox. Let's break down what the player uses first. Primarily, you will be using your katana. With this, you will utilize light and heavy attacks, blocks, and parries. Different telegraphs will tell you which is necessary at a given moment. You will learn naturally through gameplay when to strike, when to dodge, and when to remain on the defensive. With the katana, there are also multiple stances that correspond to different enemy types. A sword stance, shield stance, spear stance, and an anti-heavy stance. All of these need to be switched through in order to use your sword effectively. Next, you have your bow. thinning out charging enemies, weakening a stronger enemy, or getting your sneaky headshots in stealth. To unarmored enemies, this is your go-to. Another bow can be unlocked to better face armored enemies, but it's wasteful on unarmored opponents, retaining a single-purpose design. Now, I recognize it's been a while since I've used the term single-purpose. Now, for those of you that don't know, single-purpose refers to a sandbox in which each tool has its own unique purpose. Even if new tools are introduced, new weapons, new whatever, they never supersede or overtake a given weapon's role. So let's take Halo 1 for example. In Halo 1, you have the assault rifle and you have the plasma rifle. Both of these are rifles, but the way you use them are completely different. The assault rifle is meant to thin out weaker enemies. Think grunts and jackals. You just squeeze the trigger, you have a massive ammo pool, and you can clear out all the little guys. Now the plasma rifle can be used in a similar way if you really want to, but where it truly excels is focusing on a single enemy to take out their shields. So yes, they are technically in the same category, however they are both single purpose. And it's that same way with both of these bows, and honestly with every single weapon in this game. Later on, you get a blow dart that instant kills or turns enemies on one another. Your Tonto is useful for stealth kills, which ties into a lot of the throwables. Smoke bombs open up enemies for stealth kills even in combat. Kunai stuns, damages, and potentially kills groups of enemies. Sticky bombs knock down, and if you stick the right enemy, control crowds. Black powder bombs are more of a frag grenade, dealing damage over a wider range than its sticky counterpart. Does this sound familiar to you? And wind chimes lure enemies into compromising stealth positions. Then last but not least, you have your horse. Striking from a dashing steed makes you harder to hit. Utilizing arrows on the move is insanely effective, and if you have the DLC, your horse can charge and clear an entire combat encounter. Let me make this loud and clear right now. This is one of those times where getting the DLC or director's cut of a game is actually worth it. More on that later. But the weapon sandbox is only as good as the enemy sandbox. And yeah, the Mongols are worthy of standing beside Combat Evolved's Covenant. Starter Mongols and Japanese raiders wear simple gray cloth. Their silhouettes are less bulky. They really stand out in the brighter environments they are placed in. Blue Mongols are the next step up, boasting more aggressive patterns, and archers fire 3 times in a row. Orange Mongols are next. These guys are all about fire, so dodging and rolling becomes more important here. Lastly, the Winter Mongols are impossible to miss due to their heavy fur armor and devastating attacks. And they use poison. There are multiple Mongol types within these classes of enemies. The swordsman comes in many forms. Single blade, dual wielding, and sometimes the Japanese Ronin, forms that mirror your own attack patterns. Parries, heavy strikes, and dodge timing are how to deal with these guys. They are the grunts of Tsushima, the basics. Shielded Mongols are the jackals. Like the jackals, they require a flurry of quick attacks to get through their shield. Spearmen are the elites of this game and are most likely to drive you to use your cheesy ghost weapons. Perfect parrying and closing the gap with your spear stance is essential if you can't kunai, bomb, or smoke these guys. Heavies are hunters. Use your heavy stance to stun lock them or just hit them in the back. Do I even need to make the Halo comparison to the gold Mongol generals? One enemy type Tsushima balances quite well are the archers. Less like the sniper jackals of Halo 2 and Halo 3, and more like the Combat Evolved jackals with good sound and color telegraphing here. The Mage Mongols act like Combat Evolved fuel rod grunts. Bright colors and a unique silhouette keep them fair. If you get the DLC, you'll meet the Mongol equivalent of the Flood, the Purple Mongol, who can switch weapons and stances and use weapon versatility against you. Now, if at any point you said, "Damn, these guys look hard," then fear not. If the combat keeps fucking you up, turn to stealth. Stealth in this game is fun, but not nearly as tight as the combat. Now, the actual takedowns, traversal, and weapons are awesome. There's even a first-person crawling camera when you're going underneath stuff that makes me think of Metal Gear Solid. However, you do have the hide and sneaky grass and deaf enemy elements that kind of suck. The grass isn't too much of an issue, as one of the best stealth games ever uses this. However, personally, I prefer stealth in Dishonored, where the safe zone is above the enemy, so I can constantly collect information, or Metal Gear Solid 2, where I memorize guard patterns and enter a state of low, while consistently slipping by on the move. Honestly, this is a nitpick, more like how CE Rocket Flood is an issue, but then not really. What is a genuine flaw though is the alert system. I understand that Ghost is primarily an open world adventure game before a stealth game. However, when dudes are blowing horns or I'm throwing explosives around, it makes no sense how now I have to spend an extra minute searching for the deaf Mongol who was 15 feet away behind a hay bale. Boss fights are cool, and Ghost has them. Easy fights that only require you to know how to switch to shield stance, and hard fights that require mastery of dodging, parrying, and attack timing. What holds these fights on a pedestal is that no matter how bone-crushingly difficult these fights can be, you can make them a lot easier by exploring the world. Side quests and discoverables yield hidden techniques that can vary from a free hit to crowd control to lighting your sword on fire to break through any defense. That brings me to the next section of this video.
猿は遊びを好む。母上曰く、遊びを入れるのが会得への早道だとか。試してみるか。
Remember how we started the video talking about Infamous? The open world in those games acts as the primordial soup for Tsushima. This is a really good thing, because that DNA is what keeps Ghost from feeling like another paper-thin, Ubisoft vast, empty, collectathon padding fest. I've seen single-purpose sandboxes done before, but to have a world where everything you see and do ties into the gameplay loop, I haven't seen that since 2011. The first thing to bring up is the guidance systems. Now, you can fast travel and see markers in this game, but that doesn't have you staring at a minimap. Instead, there are two main means of figuring out where you need to go. The first is the guiding wind. Utilizing the DualShock's touchpad, a visible gust of wind will blow in the direction of your marked objective. The second is a little yellow bird that will utilize its bright coloring and sound telegraphs to grab your attention. Follow it and it will lead you to anything from a hot spring to a full-blown side quest. On the note of discoverable side content, even the smallest activity matters. The bamboo cutting minigame increases resolve, which is what you use for your special abilities. Your special abilities come from side quests told by storytellers. Hot springs increase your health. Animal sanctuaries, that include deer, monkeys, and more, give you different charms that act as different customizable buffs. On that note, the upgrade system is great. Utilizing discovered charms, picking resources of all kinds as you go and explore, and bringing them to different merchants to upgrade your gear is not grindy in the slightest. They either just come to you naturally, or you happen along them as you play. No forced crafting systems, and no checklists here. Another cool element of the open world is the way you unlock armor and weapons. Of course, you have the story-based things thrown your way, but there is a lot of cool extra shit you can find. Remember that heavy bow I mentioned? You get it by doing a side quest where you hunt down a demon archer. And the armors. Armor is more than cosmetic. With the base armors, there is already major differences. For example, the main samurai armor is geared towards combat, giving you extra protection. The Wanderer outfit, on the other hand, gives you buffs for exploring and makes it easier to find things. Even similar armors can be given their own purpose, as gear charms that you collect are tied to given armor sets. What I really like are the bonus armors though. Today's main example is the Gosaku armor. You either learn of this armor while rescuing farmers or through a storyteller. Basically, you have to liberate 6 specific farms from Mongols. Doing so will have a given farm grant you their key. Afterwards, you have to seek out a mysterious hill where the legendary Gosaku, defender of farmers, stashed his armor. Defeating the Mongols and climbing up utilizing the keys you collected grants you this badass armor. An armor that grants health every time you kill an enemy. I fucking wish Halo did this. Like, imagine you collect all the Halo 3 skulls and you get the Hayabusa armor and you can equip it, and then in the campaign it grants double ammo capacity for the energy sword, or maybe more melee damage, or, an Arbiter style camo system. I loved what Bungie did with the armors, telling you about a certain player in the multiplayer. Like, Hayabusa means you're a skull hunter, EOD means you beat the game on Legendary, and Recon meant you worked for Bungie, or were just blessed by them because they thought you did something cool. But now that the servers are already dead, my armor just kinda sits there. And it's not the same in 343 games, where having the classic Halo CE armor means you have to spend upwards of $30 for a cosmetic in an online-only game. Ghost doesn't try to cheat you this way. You have fun and earn the things offline and online. And on that note, you may notice a blind storyteller occasionally telling you about demons as you walk by. Speak to him and you enter the game's online mode. I've only started playing this, but damn, it's cool. I played a mode that's basically just like Firefight, where 4 players utilize 4 classes to defend against demon hordes. I play as the assassin because stabbing people in the back is where it's at. I had a Ronin on my team that acted as a healer, and a samurai who was our main combatant. PvE that encourages teamwork. Nice. Also, this has its own unlock tree here, and holy shit, Shadow of the Colossus armor. At this point, I don't think I have to say that this is a quality game with a well-balanced single-purpose sandbox. A unique, fun open world to explore, and an online mode for you and your friends. The DLC is worth it, and you can get this game and all of its content on PS4 or PS5. That means this isn't only a recommendation of a quality game, but also an economically approachable game if you get it on PlayStation 4. Stop going broke in COD, Fortnite, or whatever other free-to-play game sucks you right in. If you own a PS4 or if you own a PlayStation 5, this is your definitive title. This is PlayStation's Halo.
This is Solid Snake. Hey, subscribe to Pliskin Boy. God damn it.
You heard him.